irons,
and
put his
ambition to
whole-
bed. Be prepared.
Be prepared.
We're supposed to hear that.
Indeed.
I'm
Listen.
gonna sneak this in there.
We're
But she's
gonna
loud.
before we start this show.
Yes.
What
Do some
is
out.
the top themed animated song from the 90s? I say it's Chippendales. Sometimes
90s?
it is.
I'm
Sometimes.
Sir,
DuckTales.
I'm highly biased on what the best 90s theme song is.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Just saying. Very biased.
I
If
mean, they
it's
didn't even have
Arkham.
With lyrics, it's DuckTales. I'm gonna stick with DuckTales and X-Men, depending on if we're talking with or without lyrics.
with lyrics,
That's
with
a good one.
lyrics,
Yes.
with lyrics.
Oh,
with lyrics, DuckTales.
Because
I will die
X-Men
on that
goes
hill.
immediately against Spider-Man. The guitar
X-Men is
riff.
better.
They got some little words in there.
X-Men is better.
Spider-Man.
We're going live.
All right.
Welcome
Wait, what?
everybody.
We're not there yet. Hold on. I'm gonna let you know.
Woo.
I'm gonna let you know.
Life is like a hurricane. Sorry.
Oh, we might not be live on Facebook, but we was already recording.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, I got that. I got that.
I'm okay with this.
Okay, you better be. Yeah. All right.
Ness,
There we go.
go.
Yo. Welcome everybody to Four Letter Nerd, an adult show for geeks. I'm your host, Ness, and this is my compatriots in my group here of All Nerdum. We have Raw Sun God, we have Pure Mayhem, and Lady Sidonia.
Sidonai?
Oh, well, I mean, I think I read it wrong. I might have.
Side night, whatever.
Sidonia.
Oh, call us Sid.
Sidonia.
Sid.
It's Sid is fine.
Sid. Lady Sid. Sid. Excuse
Lady
me.
Sid is fine.
So, well, as much as I like to dive into our topic today, we are talking about autism this month. It's Autism Awareness Month. And to start us off, we have Lady Sid to give us a few words about it. Would you like to give us a little go around on there?
I would. Thank you. Before I begin, I just want to apologize in advance for any missteps that I may make out of nervousness. I want to give this the respect that it deserves. So if you can find it in me to forgive me, find it in you to forgive me for my missteps. I appreciate that.
Sid, before you go,
autism.
before you go,
Yes.
I would like Reggie to tell the trigger warning, please.
Yes, sir. I've got this.
Right.
All right. Warning. We're about to talk about an issue or topic that may be sensitive and even considered offensive to our viewers. We'd like to remind you that we mean no harm and aim to create an environment in which this topic can be talked about in a progressive and compassionate manner. If this content is difficult for you in any manner, please fast forward or come back after this content has been discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Reggie.
As Nat said, that it is Autism Awareness Month, and autism, or the autism spectrum disorder, is a neurological and developmental disorder that affects how people interact with others, communicate, learn, and behave. Although autism can be diagnosed at any age, it is described as a developmental disorder because symptoms generally appear in the first 2 years of life. Some symptoms are difficulty with communication and interaction with other people, restricted interest and repetitive behaviors, symptoms that affect their ability to function in school, work, and other areas of life. Autism is known as a spectrum disorder because there is wide variation in the type and severity of symptoms people experience.
Yes.
Now that we've gotten that maybe a little too brief definition, but the bare basics, I'd like to get into how autism was initially written into comics, because there is such a disparity in what we see, and even the timelines might surprise you. So today I'm going to be giving the briefest of histories on two of the very earliest comic book characters with autism and the strides we have made since then. It's not pretty. So again, I apologize. Thank you, Reggie, for the trigger warning. Some of the things depicted in this may be difficult, but they happened. And I think the best way to push us forward is to address them. So, and the writers, they may have meant well. They lent themselves to the overwhelming voices inciting fear and disdain to the autistic and to anyone neurodivergent, Neurodiversity, or ND, refers to variation in the human brain and cognition, for instance, in sociability, learning, attention, mood, and other mental functions. The first named autistic superhero to appear in comics was Demon Dusha. Yes, even the name Demon, aka Johnny Doo, a paranormal teenager who appears in the Marvel title Cyforce in New Universe run 1986 to 1989. Cyforce tells the story of 5 teenagers that get superpowers after a white event or psychic shockwave. Collectively, they can summon a powerful psionic entity called the Psyhawk. The first appearance of Demon Dusha establishes his autistic differences immediately and unmistakably.
Mm.
The single panel shows him confined in a solitary padded cell, wearing a straitjacket and an insanity mask of Victorian asylums. He's being held at the Siberian Project for Paranormal Research, and even it's demonized and dehumanized. He's clearly someone to fear. Unlike his fellow paranormals, Demon is held in solitary confinement, and not because he can start fires with his mind. The scientists fear him because his autism makes his paranormal superpowers unpredictable and unmanageable. Controlling him is a top priority, not training, and they consider giving him a lobotomy so they can neutralize his disability while retaining the use of his pyrokinesis. It's the start of the disability is seen as a moral deficit evil trope that runs rampant for decades to come in all forms of media. The other half of this story that also makes it problematic is the overcoming. It is implied that being with the Psyforce is leading to a cure, as he goes from being nonverbal to speaking in full sentences by the last issue. When asked why the character was created at all, as the author was not artistic, nor did he know anyone that was, he said, "I have to be honest. I don't know what led me back then to create Demon. I know since it was my first book, I was doing anything I could to differentiate myself from other writers. I had wanted to make Tyrone, another Psyforce member of color, in the book gay, but I also knew we weren't able to do that back then. I think the autism was just to have a character that would generate drama and conflict within the group while also being something unique to comics. I had no experience with autism in my family. I am far more aware of it now than I was back then."
Mm.
Before I move on, do you guys have anything that you wanted to say about the story?
I just want to add on that you can tell that the ignorance back then was a little bit more prevalent, and you could tell that he wanted to create that character just to kind of get his name out there, which wasn't right. But like you said, it's best to move forward by acknowledging the past and what's happened. Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Gentlemen,
just
anything?
things were not always handled as well as they are today. Well, even today, some things aren't handled as well as they are. But just back then, just to give him what they would consider a disability, just because, and just to make him a character that was, someone that was going to be talked about, it's putting the cart before the horse. It's like, we're just going to make him this way just to make a character that people are going to talk about, instead of, hey, let's make an interesting character, let's dive into him, and then make people talk about it instead of, what they did.
Reminds me a lot of the days of we don't really pay attention to people when they have when they didn't really bring up or talk about, say, mental illness or the bullying aspect, or these topics weren't they weren't put out there for people to really talk about. They didn't have those kind of things, and it's terrible to see. That's the first I hear of this to really it just was like, whoa, that's how it was. But I'm glad that we develop a path to be able to get people some help, or we get people to really understand these kind of topics and get them aware, get them in there, start reading these things and really understand it, because that's very ignorant for just to be like, oh, what's wrong with that person? I don't know. It's crazy. What? No, that's not it. Stop doing that. That's not how you say it. You got to be more sensitive. You got to dive deep into these people, and you really understand in their shoes. Got to be in the place and really see through their eyes and actually live it today, and what they go through, and understand their process, understand their feelings, and have some empathy for it,
Agreed.
Thank you. thank you, gentlemen. Before I move on, I do want to point out something that I said from the author. It was less controversial to use autism as a weapon than it was to make a character gay in a 1986 to 1989 Marvel comic run. I just want to
Mhm.
state that once more before we move on. So, our next example, Black Manta, aka David Hyde, was definitely way up there in terms of notable villain that no one knows about, which is what led so many writers over the years to do major changes and revelations with him because it was hard for anyone to say that doesn't fit with Black Manta. Despite debuting in 1967, it would be over a decade before we even saw what Black Manta looked like under his mask. We didn't know his name until 2010, over 4 decades after he debuted. Now, I did mention 1986, 1989 was when we got Demon Dusha. We are now in Aquaman number 8, 2003. So we're talking almost 20 years later. We discover that Manta was autistic and was put into Arkham Asylum when he was a boy. While Arkham had never been a place anyone would want to visit, what made it particularly unbearable for young David was that due to having severe sensory issues, Hyde often suffered at the hands of the asylum staff, who were said to have shown little sympathy when Hyde was put into excruciating pain as a result of something as simple as being tucked into bed. In fact, as time went on, it transpired that the only solace young Hyde experienced during his early years was the feeling of ecstasy he had when submerged into icy cold water. Things for David got much worse from here, though, as after being deemed a hopeless case in the 90s, the doctors at Arkham decided to use David as a human guinea pig for their experimental treatments, e.g., autism trials. I'm sure that this was meant as a sympathetic portrayal of how poorly kids with autism are treated, and it works in that sense. But again, we get this character that is held in a facility and experimented on and given superhuman abilities. But just when David's captors started to see progress in the form of an improved vocabulary, it also transpired that these tests had given the boy super strength and increased aggression, resulting in the escape of the orphan from the asylum and the murder of many doctors who had punished the boy during his time at Arkham. This serum allegedly cures his autism, but even in battle, you could see his tics and tells from his childhood showing, and he is dying from the forced mutation backfiring on him. Aquaman uses magical healing water to fix the mutation, but he also goes one step further and essentially rewires Black Manta's brain and cures his autism. For real this time. And suddenly, Black Manta is no longer a villain. He becomes Aquaman's buddy in the next issue now that he has been fixed. Later, that turns out to be a trick, and Manta is still evil, but the autism is still cured.
Mm.
Like Black Manta's depiction of autism itself, having an autistic supervillain is a complicated idea. Autistic people have a history of being looked down on for things which are often out of their control, and by promoting a villain who seems to have been destined for darkness due to misunderstandings, writers could be unwittingly sharing the idea that autistic people are one bad day away from buying an evil lair, hiring some henchmen, and carrying out international crime in animal themed outfits. However, while the very idea of a spectrum themed supervillain or superhero is problematic, the inclusion of an autism cure is something way more controversial within their legacies. As not only is this something which can indicate that Demon and David were bad because they were autistic, but by having a superhero administer the change, audiences are led to see the action of what is essentially rewriting someone's brain
Mm.
as heroic.
Mm.
Without their autism, both characters should have felt lost and stripped of their identities. Instead, they act thankful. With all this said, their depictions of autism aren't completely without redemption, though, as behind some questionable decisions, their origins showcase the prejudice and subsequent dangers which many autistic people previously faced and still do face as a result of a lack of autism awareness and understanding. Black Manta and Demon Dusha aren't ancient evils with a chip on their shoulders, nor were they born on a distant planet looking for somewhere to invade. They were simply boys brimming with potential who were broken as a result of others needlessly trying to fix them.
Mm.
This is a strong warning to the dangers of thinking that different must be bad, and it's one which the writers should be praised for, even if they do immediately ruin it with introduction of an autism cure. And that, just to sum that up, I want to once again say that this is in the span of almost 20 years where we are seeing the same trope being used against these characters: autistic, uncontrollable, something to be scared of, something to sequester. But if the right hero comes along, they can literally cure their autism and make them good people and heroes. And it's mind-boggling how 2003 is not that long ago. That's not even a generation ago.
Have they apologized by any chance? Have they made any, do you know if they made any remarks about what they've done?
None that I could find outside of the quote that I read about Demon Dusha. I was not able to find any other addressing of how they wrote these characters. But for the most part, when people get called out on things like that, they all claim the same thing. It was a different time and we didn't know.
I'll say this.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'll just say, like, we understand it's a different time. And much like even some of our parents, where they thought they knew everything and they taught us wrong, we were able to see past it and say, hey, what you did and what you taught was wrong. You still have the ability to admit your wrongness and make things right. An apology and awareness goes a long way. And I think more so toward, people who are living with autism, they would very much, and their family members would very much appreciate it. Go ahead, Ken.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Well said. Now, what you were saying was important. And what I'm saying, not less important, but trying to steer the conversation a little bit differently. Now that we've gone over what these depictions have been, I would like to recommend to you 4 autistic creators who are doing wonderful things, not only for getting the stigma of autism out and the information, but doing some really cool comics too. We have Sci Pops. This is actually their Tumblr and how I originally found them.
Nice.
Then we also have, they do the cutest web comic. Then we have Led Bradshaw, Jet Pulse Comics. He's a New York-based graphic artist, illustrator, and publisher for Jet Pulse Comics. His flagship title, The New Adventures of Jake Jet Pulse, is a comic book adventure story that was inspired by his son Jacob, who was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder at the age of 4. And that is his, where you can find him at the bottom. Sheepdog does not have a website, but you can find him on YouTube. He does a YouTube, a podcast, and a Twitch. All great stuff where he talks about autism and living with autism, but also about lots of other stuff that was very entertaining in the clips that I got to see. And finally, we have Bex Allerton. She's a full-time comic artist based in the UK. She's known for her introspective comics about mental health, neurodivergence, and the general struggles of being a human being in an overwhelming world. As a physically disabled autistic artist with ADHD, she cares greatly about raising awareness through graphic medicine, and her goal is to use comics to discuss things that can be hard to talk about. When she's not drawing or making comics, she enjoys playing piano, being an epic gamer, and definitely remembering to take care of her far too many houseplants. And she's on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook under the handle
Shnum.
We apologize if we're butchering your
Yes.
name.
So, yes, I apologize for butchering your name. And, but I am not sorry for promoting your stuff because we need more people like you doing what you're doing. So thank you for being a light after the darkness that I just had to push out there today.
Here, here.
Here, here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Very
Kat.
well. Very
Yeah,
well.
thank you, Kat. Our topic for this evening, after our very, very deep thought, I didn't really get to hear much about it. I didn't, just sorry to start, but in a different angle, but hearing Kat about these topics and then reading out about the autism, I didn't really get to hear it. My experience in healthcare was just taking care of the elderly, and the disorders that we go through at the facility that we used to be at. So Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So hearing this side and the other aspects of healthcare, and especially autism, made me want to just I wish I dipped into that in the healthcare profession when I was there, and really look more closer into that. But I thank you for that, Kat. It really opened me up. For the first time, I really thought about it, and just, man, that would have been really dope if I gotten into that, because I only got into memory care, and that was the only about as far as I got into it. But on a different note, we like to talk about Batman. So
I'm
the Cape Crusader, the Dark Knight, the I don't know, the guy that comes out in the shadows and punches you in the face if you do something bad. So,
Could also be me.
Well, yeah, if they sneak up behind you and they're like tap your shoulder or whatever, and like, blah,
Yeah.
look, it's a reflex. You don't do that. Back up. I guess I could start out with discussing about the video games.
Or
Or
actually, I got a better idea, because let's hold off till later. Because first of all, we need to talk about how if you bought a bootleg CD, Batman would beat you up. Okay, leave me alone, Batman. Okay, I need to hear this new Cisco Enter the Dragon 2. Okay, anyway,
It was not that bad.
you know what? I think people need to kind of understand Batman to a little bit. Let's talk about the comics. Who was gonna do the comics? Do you remember?
The comics, I don't know. I think I might know somebody that
was
might get into some with
Reggie.
comics.
I think it was Reggie.
Was it me?
Okay.
I think it was
Reggie.
Russ Sungod. I think I want to point that out, being the host. So yeah, Reg, yeah.
Yes.
I think you got some comics that you'd like to discuss about the
I think
Batman.
I do. Right, let's get into this. Hold on. I'm sorry, I am the director and the producer all at once, so sometimes it takes me a moment to get to where I need to go, and I apologize for that.
And I am the face. Look at my face.
That's right, the face. That gentleman there.
So Batman, Bruce Wayne, right? It's always been debated whether or not Bruce Wayne is Batman or is Batman Bruce Wayne. And I think it's fair to say Bruce Wayne is actually and has always been Batman. I don't think Bruce Wayne has ever been Bruce Wayne. And if he ever was Bruce Wayne, is when he was a kid. And I don't think you can count that, because you're not fully developed as a person. What do you guys think?
I think he's always been Batman, because that's how he always refers to himself. Ever since he became Batman, he stopped calling himself Bruce Wayne. So he is Batman masquerading as Bruce Wayne. That's always the way it's going to be for me, is how I see it. So he's always going to be Batman.
Okay. What about you, Kat?
I'm going to say that there is no Bruce Wayne. It's Batman, and then his impersonation of an American Alfred.
Ooh.
Oh.
You know what, Kat? I'm tired of calling. You got all the answers. You got all the answers. Like, how is Ness gonna follow that up?
Shut
now?
up.
I got nothing.
Oh, look, you stole his thunder.
I'm sorry. Were you
Thunder.
gonna say that?
Oh, I mean, if everybody wants to go ahead, I don't know. I got nothing. I mean, if you want to go ahead, man, it's cool.
He feels the same way we all do. He's Batman pretending to be Bruce Wayne. That's what it is. And speaking of Batman, what I chose to speak about were two of my favorite story arcs written by two of my favorite regular art authors and writers.
Gaiman.
This is
Gaiman.
Batman: What Happened to the Cape Crusader, written by Neil Gaiman. I actually own the vast majority of his books, except for a few of the short stories. But yes, I enjoy his writings. And this take on Batman was one of the more introspective ones, and I liked it. And what I liked about it is that it showed how everyone sees themselves when interacting with Batman, and how they tell the stories about themselves in Batman. So it's interesting, because in this story, This is where everyone gets together, villains, heroes together, and they tell how Batman died, their version. And of course, with his rogues gallery, nobody had the same story whatsoever. All right, and then my stuff wants to be out of order, so we're gonna slide on through this because
Love it when it's out of order.
I like that one. That's good.
Wow, it's way out
That's
of
pretty
it is way out of order. Oh my goodness. I do apologize, people. I will get more professional at this eventually. But all right, so
We're shopping it. It's cool, man. You got
there
it.
we go. So here is the storytelling of where the quote unquote gentlemen of the Rogues Gallery tell their story about how Batman died and how everything went. And one of the biggest parts about this is, spoiler warning, even though this story is a few decades old, it's one of the ones where it shows Alfred actually being the Joker and the Riddler. Because Batman was going out, he didn't have any supervillains to fight, and Alfred took it upon himself to dress up with the white face makeup, the red lipstick, and he's like, you know what, my master needs somebody to fight, and oh my God, this is so out of order. So out of order. There's other things I'm going to be talking about. We can see the artwork for that as well. I just need there's the picture I'm looking for right there.
There he
So
is.
this is where Alfred decides to become the Joker. And he's like, my master needs somebody to go out there and fight. He needs an arch nemesis. And he came up with this one. So this one has had a lot of, fan theories running that, maybe Alfred is the Joker in some realities. And, they always have their, Nexus events and their crossovers and their crises on Infinite Earths. And out there in the multiverse, there is one where Alfred is the Joker doing this so Bruce can feel as though he's doing something for the city of Gotham. And so, and this story is like, it just took part over 2 issues, and Bruce is not dead. Batman is not dead. You can see his thoughts happening as he's listening to everyone tell their story of what happened to Batman in his final moments, when they spent those final moments with Batman. How did Batman die? And everyone tells their story, and it's crazy people telling stories about a less crazy guy that beats them up and puts them back to go
less
get
crazy
help.
guy.
Because let's face it, you're dressing up as
crazy.
you dressing up as a bat, beating people up. You're gonna be labeled a little bit, but it's a
when
really good
people
story.
dress the way that they're dressed, they really shouldn't be talking.
Yeah, this is true, but it was a really interesting story. It's just how all these people see themselves and their interactions with Batman. If they were all to actually have a night of peace and go to his funeral and speak about what happened with him between them. And of course, they all got to be like, I'm the one that killed Batman. This is the way he died. Oh, you didn't kill Batman. This is how it happened. And everyone tells a story. And, it's one of the first times I actually got to see this scene here actually drawn out. Cause I got into comics early-ish, but still not too early, but I didn't get all the way far back into them. I started where I started and went forward. And now as I'm older, I jump back and forth. But this is one of the first time I actually saw this scene drawn out. Like the first time I saw it, it was Batman 1989. Everybody's like, oh, ooh, look at that scene. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. But then I went back and saw this, and I'm like, oh, look at this. And, this mimics it very similarly to how it happens in that movie. And I'm like, I think this is where they came in and, got this idea from, is from this panel. But, everyone's looked like that. So, I can't say. And then my second one is like one of the quintessential Batman stories of all time. Batman, The Dark Knight Returns. It's, what if Batman retired and then decided, I don't want to be retired anymore? And so it's the story of just the news in Gotham and how Gotham is just going to pot, going to crabs, going to shit, and things are better, but things are worse. And
Yes.
Bruce just keeps watching things, and he's like, why did I leave? My city needs me. So he literally like let go of he really embraced Bruce Wayne more than he did Batman. Grew a mustache. It's like, you can't be Batman like that. But he's sitting up there steadily watching the news, and he's like, I got to get back out there. I'm only going to focus on the first chapter because, I don't want to go too deep into it because there's 6 to 8 chapters. But yeah, it's just one of those quintessential ones. And then, he's just sitting there and he's going through like, you know what? I need to be Batman. My Gotham needs Batman. It always will need a Batman. Let me go be that Batman that my city needs. And it was just one of the great stories that, like, this is the reason we got those dark and gritty Batman stories is after this, when everybody's like, ooh, Batman can be dark and gritty. Hold up. Let me tell a dark and gritty Batman story. Well, hold on. Let me tell a dark and gritty Batman story. And it started this cascade of everybody wanting to go dark. And that's how we got 1989 Batman. That's how we got Nolan's Batman, because let's just go dark. And from the first chapter, this is one of those quintessential scenes because everyone knows Batman doesn't use guns. And he was up on the roof, going to snipe a target, and it's Batman. He's got a rifle, and you're like, hold up. What's Batman doing with that? And it's just one of those stories where you just got to get drawn in at the beginning with this little bit of tease that I'm giving you. And then you're like, I need to go see more. And that's what that is. My 2 stories, my 2 favorite arcs.
Thank you very much for sharing that. That was amazing. You hit up some really great points. I wouldn't doubt if Matches Malone was at the funeral watching everything in the first issue. And in the second one, you're right, it had a big impact and a shift. And I would say, honestly, it got more people into Batman, into watching Batman from there on, once they heard about the long Halloween and all that good stuff. I actually wanted to go next and talk about some of the shows that Batman was part of. If I could have my graphics, please.
Yes, sir. Once again, they're out of order because even though I saved them in order, Facebook told me no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is the order that Facebook put them in, and yeah, I'm blaming Facebook. I'm blaming Meta. I'm blaming the metaverse that we're currently live on. I'm blaming them.
So,
but yes,
originally, this is a little bit later. What we're going to talk about is Batman the Animated Series. Yes. Oh my God. Everybody knows this. We've got so many great. Yes, we got so many great films. Mask of the Phantasm from this. We got so many great voices. You guys already know Kevin Conroy as Batman. Oh, yeah. We almost got Tim Curry as the Joker, but he developed bronchitis, and we instead got Mark Hamill. Luke, if you don't know who that is, you should.
One of the best Jokers ever.
It aired September 6, 1992. And the last date of season 1, Batman the Animated Series, was September 17, 1993. It had 65 episodes. It was a hit. And then it came out with season 2, which was 20 episodes, which was May 2nd, 1994 to September 15th, 1995. After that, we did get Batman the Animated Series. If you don't mind leaving it right there, that's kind of like the style it took after a while. So at first it was like a little bit more grungy, and then now kind of took a little bit more playful because we did get Superman as well. This is part of the 90-minute crossover. Let me tell you, WB fans was hyped for this 90-minute, hour and a half crossover to have Batman and Superman meet, okay? Batman meets Superman here. Batman's in Metropolis, and he uses kryptonite. And then Superman happens to peek under Batman's son. He's like, Bruce Wayne. And Batman goes, naughty, you peeked. And then follows Superman home and figures out who he is. It was amazing. If you guys haven't watched it, definitely go check it out. Definitely, I'm going to have you go forward. With that being said, with Batman the Animated Series was such an impact. Really quickly, I want to let you know that it got dark, but it was so masterfully done musically. Animated wise, the messages, like anybody who's seen the 2-part series of Clayface can tell you, like that was some serious darkness, but it was an amazing one, numerous awards. So because of this impact, obviously they created season 2, the New Adventures of Batman and Robin, and of course Batman Beyond. Now Batman Beyond, we're all waiting for it. We're hoping it comes out as a live action movie, but we'll have to see what they do. I'm waiting for him to definitely show it. You know what? Yeah, no worries. January 10th from 1999 to December 18th, 2001. Okay. Batman Beyond. was so popular because you had this kid named Terry McGinnis, a teenager like us, or we all thought we wanted to be, happened to, like us, find out that Bruce Wayne, who was older now, who had retired from being Batman, sound familiar? Take over the mantle of being Batman, and was like everything as cool as we wanted it to be. He could fly now instead of glide. He had his own cool Batmobile. The Rogues Gallery was way harder and different, but up until the movie, it kind of left some questions unanswered. Like you had gangs that ran the streets called the Joker gang, but what happened to the Joker? We actually didn't find out what happened until Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker, which released December 12th, 2000. If you saw this, this movie was amazing. It was amazing. I'm not going to spoil it, but those that know, I'm sorry. If you know, you know. Like, it was amazing, the twists and turns of the Return of the Joker, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Yeah, but of course.
Yeah, that was a good twist. That was a great twist.
But sadly, it came to an end. So DC and WB were like, wait, we got to sell more toys. We need something else. Insert the Justice League. From November 17, 2001 to May 29th of 2004, the Justice League had our favorite, 6 years. This is the showing of Justice League Unlimited, which came after, of Batman, Superman, Martian Manhunter, as he goes through everything, Diana Prince, Wonder Woman. Oh, okay.
That too. Also that one as well.
That one as well. Oh, okay. You know what? Fine. I'm just gonna stop there. Hawkman, Hawkgirl, excuse me, and Green Lantern. Like, this was amazing because it expanded. You notice that the styling, that's actually Batman the Animated Series, that's different. But the styling of the actual show was a little bit more acceptable, a little bit more lively, bright. The messages, ironically, were still impactful. Hell, we even got to meet the JSA, Justice Society of America. So it was so good. It was such a big hit that they said, you know what? Let's do it again, but this time at a bigger roster. Insert Justice League Unlimited. And this is where we got all those people and all those rogue galleries there. I mean, if you know, you know. I mean, we even got Supergirl, Red Tornado, Atom Smasher, just to name a few. Catman. Yeah, go ahead. You know,
name them.
Captain Mr. Atom. There you go.
We're on a time crunch.
I know. So we'd be here.
Etc. Not to mention, and I'm sorry to interject in there, but in one of those series that he covered, we also got the introduction of probably one of the most popular characters ever to come out in the last, what decade are we in? 30 some odd years? Harley Quinn.
Yes.
I
was going to save that for last, but thank you because you read my mind.
My bad.
No worries. No, I love the
spoilers.
Harley Quinn was only created for the show. And then she was so popular, they rolled her over in the comic books and ultimately her own movie, which, we're not here to talk. We're not here to talk about.
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about birds of prey. No. But these shows in particular, as well as others like Superman, were so popular. I mean, Superman even had him race the Flash. Let's not talk about that. Were so popular that we got Teen Titans. We got so many spinoffs, and Batman was always at the center of everything. Batman in the animated series has been amazing. As animated movies has been amazing. I mean, one of the first movies I've seen Batman animated wise was Mask of the Phantasm. Yes. And that's arguably a classic.
There's no arguing to it. That movie is a classic.
I mean, you still got to go with Batman Return of the Joker. I mean, which one's more classier than others? Whatever. But you got to understand, Batman has been a part of our lives for a reason. And the duality of personalities, of doing what's right, and arguably whether or not he's right doing it, because, it's kind of like he keeps his villains in Arkham so that way he can make profits off of it in Wayne Industries. I'm just saying, Enterprise, you know what I'm saying? Or is he just as mental as some of the people he's fighting against? But nonetheless, there's so many things I can say about Batman. I think it's time for us to move on into something just as impactful. Thank you for my time.
No problem. Thank you, man. Thank you. I love that.
I'm excited for this part.
Yes. So, we got the comic segment. We got the video segment of all the TV shows. And now I'm going to dip into the video game aspect of the Batman. I'd like to have a nice long discussion about it, just because after looking through the library of games that they have for Batman, that came out for all systems, as far as the Commodore 64, there was another one, the ZX Spectrum, Super NES, NES, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy, and then the current ones, the Switch, Xbox. I mean, it keeps going. So with the first game that ever came out for these video games of Batman, I'd like to call out the Batman the Cape Crusader. This game came out in 1986. Originally came out for the Z Spectrum computer console, as you were. It was developed by a publisher, Ocean. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Ocean. They had many games like Addams Family, RoboCop 2, RoboCop 3, Darkman, Cool World. I can name a lot more. They did some awesome games that I grew up with. And let's see, and then I just wanted to mention a star coder that was responsible for the coding of this game. His name is Jonathan Smith. He went to make games like Spider-Man, for the NES, X-Men arcades, and games in the Super NES, Game Boy Advance, and so on and so forth. You could definitely find a good extension of all the games that he's come out with. As you can see, there are some cool little images of the video game itself of the first Batman. It was an isometric action adventure game. So the premise of this game is where Batman has to reassemble a hovercraft. So it was a bat hovercraft, I guess. I'm not sure. So as you can see, little bits and pieces in there. In this process, Robin was in there fixing the hovercraft until he got kidnapped. So in order to save Robin, Batman had to go ahead and find these pieces of the hovercraft. And once assembled, he can go save Robin. Right. So in this game, you're able to travel through roughly about 150 rooms, collect missing parts of the hovercraft so that way you could save Robin. And it's based off more of the comics than the TV show. And it was an early example of the save game system. The game has, keeps you going through a bat cave, dodging enemies, collecting backpack craft pieces. And it has, travels you, excuse me, I'm excited about it. I like to try to get it out, but I get my tongue tied here for a bit. The gameplay has you going through the Batcave, dodging enemies, of course. In his travels, you'll find power-ups, use a batarang, the usual, his main weapon of choice. And you are allowed to pick up objects and drop them with this backpack. Not only that, if you can see in the bottom right corner of that little shot right there, you have your little utility stuff that you're able to use. From what I understand, you got some jet boots, or the bat boots, I should say, jump thruster to help you move faster or even jump higher areas, and a low gravity belt that keeps you in the air longer for periods of time whenever you want to get across certain areas. Now, personally, I do not own a ZX Spectrum. I don't have this game. I would love to play this game and just to feel the nostalgicness and the history of this first video game rendition of the Batman. I'm sure it reminds me a lot of the first Game Boys that came out. You started playing your own Game Boy games. But they also came out, this game came out in several renditions. If you keep going further down, you'll be able to see a version of it on the Commodore 64, which was made here in America. And there's the Armstrad PCW, the ZX Spectrum, and the MSX Spectrum. So there's different variations of this game made for those systems when it first came out.
Okay.
Let's see, and I can go into deeper. So I think if you go a little further, you probably see some of the utility bits. As you can see, there's this, that's your OG inventory.
You see that pose?
Oh, dude, you got your Batman.
The classic Batman pose.
Right, classic
he's got
Batman
his arms and hips and shit. And then, that's part of the aesthetic of the Batcave at the time. You got a shot of the Batmobile right there. That.
Wow. All right.
And it just has a monotone of the original bits of it.
All right.
Now, as much as I like to get further into this game, I only want to just kind of tap into a few games that I played through the years that I remember fondly of the Batman. which was one of them was for the Sega Genesis that I played. I believe it was the Batman Forever. I don't know if anybody played the Batman Forever video game. I'd like to. I don't have much information about how it was published or when it was done, but as far as I fondly remember, it reminded me a lot the same style of the Mortal Kombat video games, where
Yes.
he has that old motion and that, and then here comes the villains again, gives them some uppercuts, and the music alone, it's almost like the chiming sound of watching a Disney movie, and you just know the tune, and it just kind of brings those memories back. And then there was another one that came out that was for the Nintendo GameCube called Batman Vengeance, based off of your animated series Batman that was extended as a video game. So not only was it series, same bits of the series, you also had the original actors portray the characters in the game itself,
Right.
which was Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill,
and even
yep.
Harley Quinn. All original voices in this video game. The controls were a little hard, as far as I remember, trying to get the glide. But as far as all the little bits and nuances of Batman, you had your Batarang, you had your Bat Hook, the Batmobile, you had the Bat Wing. I mean, everything you can have. And Alfred in your ear, and not only that, Batgirl in your ear helping you out at trying to figure out puzzles, or if you need a clue, you just hit her up with the little motion button on the GameCube C-pad. And it was a fun game growing up with that one. Now there are many other games in there. Some PlayStation games that came out for it, Xbox games, and Sega Dreamcast as well. Now I like to fast forward to the current model of the Batman, which is one of the top ones. I think it's just like the base formula now for any future Batmans, as far as I know. Batman Arkham Asylum. I don't know if you guys ever tried to play or have played this game yourselves. I know I did for a good minute.
Yep.
I haven't gotten to beat it. I just watched my bro play it whenever he got into it. I'm like, okay, well, you take over. I'll watch you. I'm like, oh, that was tight. I'm like, oh, is that what happened? So I can tell you, I know what happens in the end, but I don't know the little bits in the middle, because he ended up freaking playing it, and then I get to see the middle bit. So I have to play myself. So
In the middle, Batman.
Batman, Riddler, Joker.
Batman.
And Batman. I like to say with this game, it was the winner of Best Action Adventure from, according to Game Trailers, 5 out of 5 stars. Editor's Choice, Best Game of the Year of 2009. One of the defining games of this generation, 96% on Game Masters UK. Voted Game of the Year by SFX readers.
Wow.
And #1 game of 2009 MTV Multiplayer. Now, basically, this game was a masterpiece in 2009 when it came out. It had every deep aesthetic of the Batman that you could think of. And they came in an angle, and these guys, Rocksteady, who developed this game, brought it up to where you were able to be the Batman. So you had all his cool gadgets. You were able to see in a different light. You were able to, different light, but more like his goggle bits. Like you were able to see X-ray. You were able to see all other stuff before, through walls and hidden passages and stuff with these abilities. So the genre of this game, of course, is action adventure, open world, and stealth. So you had the option of going in there either really stealthy, like right behind walls, capture a dude, freaking choke and knock him out. Or you can go all in while all these enemies come at you, and you can do combos, you can do uppercuts, and you keep a chain as you're playing or as you're fighting him, which becomes a part of the game itself. It's another aspect. If you want to challenge, you can go into and dip into that instead of going into the story. You could just build combo after combo after combo. Publishers who developed this was Eidos, of course, Warner Brothers, and Interactive Entertainment. And Paul Dini was a writer for this game that he developed a lot of the story aspect and really got the essence of what Batman is in there, and just got all the bits in it. With this game, it also came out in many platforms. It came out on Android, came out on iOS, Microsoft Windows computers, Nintendo 3DS, OS X, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4 and 5, PlayStation Vita, Wii U, Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, And hopefully they'll bring it for the Switch, which would be really awesome. Now, there was a release of the game at one time where it was a 3D version of it. So you got like 3D glasses for it, and you were able to play it on the 360 Arkham Asylum 3D, which was pretty dang dope. I had that one for a minute, and I can tell you it was a little jarring just because when I didn't have glasses at that time, I didn't know I was blind at the time. So it was kind of, a little blurry. So I just figured that, the little glass bit started getting a little smudgy. So I had to like wipe it down a bit. But
I can imagine.
I think I was just going blind. I think that was.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I know Arkham Asylum and Arkham City were like one of the two best of this genre of like these latest games. Arkham Knight, I
haven't tried Arkham Knight.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm hearing mixed reviews. Is there another game that's also just as hard hitting? Because we went from like little bit controllers to 2D scrollers to now a full immersive game. Is there any other modern Batman game that's just as good and has had his impact?
As far as I know or I remember, is the current one that's out. The last one that I know of was Batman. What was the name of it? Enemy Within from Telltales.
Okay.
That's the one I know of. But unless these are the Batmans that I played personally.
Okay.
I could go through the whole list and tell you about these, but personally, unless you have a specific one.
I actually have a call from the man. That's right. It's about time we have to end the show in the next couple of minutes. So what I actually want to do is I want to take a quick poll about the Batman. Because we've talked about Batman, and thank you very much for the gaming information. I did not know it went that far, and that's as big. Yes, baby. I did not know that's as far as it went until like how much it's grown. What I would like to know is we've all seen the Batman, correct?
Yep.
Correct.
Yes.
Ra.
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you give it and why? Just one thing.
I have to give this Batman a 10
Ooh.
because the story and the writing in this one, I feel embodies both Batman and the main villain, which is the Riddler, and it embodies the two of them and how their dynamic works like so well. And it shows you like this is year 2 Batman. He's not like the super detective, so he's got things to figure out. And this movie shows you he's not that perfect guy that we know from the past. This is him learning to be Batman, and this is how you show Batman learning to be Batman. Okay. Especially with the villain that he had.
Okay. Ness, 1 to 10. What do you think? One thing.
So 10.
A 10. Sure. Okay.
When a movie, and especially something that I grew up with, comes out and it brings emotion to me, and maybe even like goosies, and even like a tear to my eye, just because like, man, that was tight. I was watching me. That was tight. It was sneaking here. That was cool. It's a good movie. I really enjoyed this one. It pulled everything together, and it reminded me a lot of Arkham. You could even tell little nuances in there. They got deep with them, man. I really enjoyed this one. Really good deep detective stuff in there that I didn't get to see in the past Batmans. They touch on it, but they didn't do like this. This one was real tight. I really enjoyed it.
All right, Kat, 1 to 10. One thing, please.
Well, I wasn't going to give it a full 10, but after these two gentlemen, I think I am going to have to upgrade it to a 10 because I was pretty close. I was going to give it like a 9.5, but I am going to go full 10.
Okay.
And I'm going to stray a little bit from what we said in the chat, and I just want to focus on one thing, which is the relationships of all the characters in this film. The way that they all brush up against each other, interact, relationships that surprise you and don't surprise you, how there were all these little nods and allusions to relationships that were in the past that are currently forming and kind of tells to what transpires in the future. It was really masterfully done. Not to mention there were several scenes that literally looked like pages right out of the comics. Covers come to life, and it's hard for them to do that and for it not to feel campy or like gratuitous. And I think they managed to do all of that really well. So in honor of these two gentlemen, I'm going to say 10.
Ooh.
All right, Mr. Mayhem, what do you think?
I'm gonna join the dark side of the force and give it an 8. Very well crafted story. I believe it could be expanded on. I was not surprised by Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman. She didn't hold near dear to my heart, but I appreciate it because it is the beginning. So it can always be expanded on. And you know what? She is a great actress. I just felt like something was missing. What I love particularly about this thing was that how they showed Bruce Wayne, Robert Pattinson playing Bruce Wayne as Batman, trying to deal as being a great crusader and a human being. Like you see him deal with kind of like, I don't know who to be today, and I think that's very important. The Riddler also got a big shine because I don't think they necessarily focus on him. They think him he's a B villain when he's actually an A. He's very smart. Yeah. He's very dangerous. And then they had him, spoiler alert, which we didn't get to read, but okay. Spoiler, they had him meet who we all believe to be the Joker in the next cell at the end of a cutscene. So I think that's amazing. Unfortunately, as much as I would love to go forward and have this great conversation, maybe we'll do it next time. We do have to wrap this up. Ness, would you kindly please take us out?
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your inputs. Thank you for just opening our minds about it and talking about the Batman, man. That's a topic for the night. We can talk about this all night for sure. But this has been 4-Letter Nerd, produced by Kill the Sun Comics. I have been your host, Ness, and my group, Raw Sun God, Cooler Mayhem, and Lady Sid. I thank you very much for joining us. We'll catch you on the next.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.
This is where you end the tape. Cut it.
I think it,
Cut the music.